Hello, Professor. This is Simon Gagnon. I am in your virtualization course at Mohawk College. Specifically, the course code is Comp 10110, and this is my assignment 1 video tutorial for using VMware and creating a virtual machine using the Windows 8.1 operating system. So I just want to apologize in advance. I've been sick all week and I've coughed a bunch, and so this tutorial, hopefully I'm not going to cough as much. I'll keep it to a minimum and hopefully it's not distracting, but if I do, again, I just wanted to apologize for that. So let's get into the actual tutorial. So the first thing I'm going to do is come up with a scenario. I know that we're supposed to uh, assume that we're going to be using this for business, but I figure coming up with a very specific idea of what you're going to be using a virtual machine for is probably the best thing that we can do. So I actually had a situation where I had to use a virtual machine to work at a different company. Back in September, I went to Mohawk, and I was going to Mohawk as a second career student. So there were stipulations about what I could do for work, and one of the things was I could only work about 20 hours or less a week, and I couldn't work during school time, obviously, and I was a full-time student in the day. So I had to come up with a solution, and the solution was working for a company that was either going to let me work nights or work on the weekends. And one of the places that I worked at 10 years ago when I went to McMaster University was Pizza Pizza in their call center. So I had called up them and asked them if there's any opportunities to work as a call center agent for 20 hours or less and see if I could actually work at home. And they said, absolutely. And they said, as long as you have your own equipment, we'll put on the software. The only stipulation being that the operating system had to be either Windows 7 or Windows 8.1. So I have a brand new laptop that I got in August, so just before September, and it's an Alienware laptop, so it's run by Dell, and they didn't actually support Windows 7. So the only operating system I could use is the 8.1, and I had three options. I could do a dual boot, which I just find is very inconvenient. I could just change the operating system I had, which is Windows 10, to Windows 8.1, but I prefer Windows 10. So the third option was my best option, and that was to come up with a virtual environment. So I thought that was really convenient for so many reasons, and one is that obviously I don't have to worry about friends using my computer and accidentally deleting files or going into software that they're not supposed to because it's company software. So it gives me a layer of security. And again, I don't have to worry about dual booting. I don't have to worry about using Windows 8.1 for my day-to-day tasks. So it was just the best option. So that's the scenario that I'm using. That's what I'm thinking about in my head when I'm going to be configuring this file in this virtual machine. So getting right into it, I'm going to start off by showing you my hardware so that you can see that I know that I'm capable of choosing the configuration that I'm choosing. Very quickly, I'm using again Windows 10. It's a home edition and it's a 64-bit operating system, so I know that my Windows 8.1 is going to be a 64-bit operating system. I have a quad-core processor. It's an Intel Core i7, so it's got a lot of processing power. I don't have to worry about that really much. I have 32 gigs of RAM. Again, I don't really have to worry about that much, but it's just nice showing you that I know what I'm capable of using. And then this one's also very important. It's the disk space. I have a local drive, which is about 1 terabyte solid state drive, and I also have a secondary drive, which is a solid state drive as well, and I have about 237 gigabytes free on that, and I'm actually going to use this one as well. Again, it's just going to add a layer of security. I know that most people that are going to use my laptop, if they're using it for games or for fun or whatever they need to use it for, won't go into my secondary drive, and I don't have to worry about anything else accidentally getting deleted. Also, the nice thing is if I need to take this hard drive out of my laptop and put it into something else, I don't have to worry about the host OS getting infected at all. It's just a secondary drive that I will be concerned with, and so I think this is the best option for me. So we'll get into that. But without further ado, let's actually get into VMware and create a new virtual machine. So first thing we're going to do is obviously custom, because we want to have full control over the configuration that we're going to use. I don't want to overshoot the configurations for my software that I'm going to be using in my guest OS, but I also don't want to undershoot it as well. So this is always going to be the best option. The first thing that they're going to ask me to do is find out my hardware compatibility, and I can use workstation 12 all the way down to 5. And I'm going to use 10. The reason why I'm not using 12 is because despite the fact that it's newer and it's supposed to be better, there's also potential that there's going to be a lot of bugs that haven't been fixed yet. There hasn't been enough tweaks to make sure that it's completely a smooth experience. And when it comes down to working for a business and using a virtual machine, you want to make sure that it's the most smooth operating system experience that you can have. You want to make sure that there's as much support as possible. You don't want your employer saying, "Why aren't you online? What's happening here?" So that's why I'm going to end up using 10. The reason why I'm not using 9, in eLearn it does suggest to use 9, but I'm using Windows 8.1. And when you go to VMware, it shows you the compatibility of Windows 8.1, and it shows when it comes to the workstation, you can only use 10 and higher. You can't use 9. So I'm going to use 10. And there's another reason why I'm going to use 10 that I'll talk about, but there is a reason I'm specifically using 10 and not 11. Like I said, I'll get to that in just a second. But for now, I'm going to use 10. It's going to probably give me the most support that I need and a smoother experience, a more stable and balanced experience when using the guest OS. Very quickly, I'm just going to grab the file, the Windows 8.1 file. You can already see it's here, but just in case, I'm just going to go into my desktop. I see Windows 8.1, 64-bit. I also know it's 4 gigs, so I'm going to click on that file and it will automatically detect it. So everything's good with that. When it comes to the Windows product key, I already know that, so I'm just going to paste that in there. When it comes to the full name, I'm just going to put Pizza Pizza OS. Even though I'll know, it's just to confirm. I'll put a password as well, and I don't want it to automatically log in. Again, add security. It is for a business, and I'm sure that that business would appreciate that I'm doing everything I can to make sure it's a very secure operating system, and not everyone's going to be able to access it just for security reasons, right? So I'm not going to click on this. I'm just going to move next. And then virtual machine name. Again, I'll just type in Pizza Pizza OS. I could have left it like that. I don't have anything else as Windows 8 right now, so that would have been fine. But just for the sake of it, I'll change that name. And when it comes to the location, I'm going to change it to the secondary drive. And I've already explained that, so I'll move on. Now this is the reason why I chose for Workstation 10 over 11. I wasn't too familiar with this EFI. But after doing some research, I realized that it's kind of like the next up-and-coming thing. It's supposed to be better, it's supposed to be faster, better performance and whatnot. But the problem is it is new hardware. It is a new kind of technology. So with that, that means that there's less compatibility, there's less support with it. There could be issues. It's not as mature. And the other thing that I realized after doing some research, and I'm just going to go to VMware's own website again, is that, just going up here, VMware, you can see this, is that this technology wasn't available until Workstation 11 and newer. So even though technically I'm on Workstation 12, but I'm using Workstation 10, when Workstation 10 came out, it didn't give us this option. So in my personal opinion, I'm just going to stick with BIOS because I know it's, kind of tested, supported, and I'm not going to have any issues with it, and that's the whole point. Again, I just want a smooth experience, so that's why I'm going to go with BIOS. When it comes to processors, I know I don't need a lot. I know that I have 4 programs that I'm going to be using, and they're less than 500 megabytes each, but 2 of them are web apps. So there's not a heavy amount of processing power that I'm going to need. Again, I have a quad core, so I can afford to be a little bit more generous. So I am going to pick 2, but I don't need to. I could have picked 1, but again, because I have the capability, I'm going to take it. So I'll go next. When it comes to memory, when it comes to the RAM, this is one, again, I don't need a lot. It's recommending that I have 2 gigs, and to be honest with you, I think that's fine. I do have 32 that I can use, so if I wanted, I could use 4 gigs, but I really don't think it's necessary. I've used it with 2 gigs of RAM, and it's been smooth, so I'm just going to continue to use it for 2 gigs, and I'm happy with that. Now this is one that's kind of, we're at the network type. I'm going to choose NAT, but I'm only choosing NAT for now. I would actually change this to bridged if I was actually using the actual operating system to do the call order taking. And the reason why is that one of the programs I have to use is a VPN client. I have to connect to their private network. And the only way to really do that properly is to do this with a bridge networking adapter or network adapter. But we're going to do NAT just because I'm not going to actually load the software. I don't think I can show you the software. And I'm just more concerned about getting this up and running and showing you the SID, and then hopefully that's enough for a high mark on the assignment. So I'm going to use NAT, but like I said, I just want to confirm I would typically use bridge networking. That's the one that's more important. So let's just go next. This I don't have any control over. LSI Logic SAS is the recommended, and it's the only one I can control and choose. So I'm just going to select yes and move forward. Once again, virtual disk type, I can use any of these. It's suggesting I use SCSI, and I'm going to use that because, again, I just want this to be smooth. They're recommending this based on the previous configurations I put in, and that's fine with me. I'm okay with SCSI. I don't need it to be an IDE or a SATA, so I'm going to move forward with that. And we're going to create a new virtual disk because I don't have an existing virtual disk for this, and I'm not going to use a physical disk, so we'll just continue with this. Now this is where we can choose the amount of data we're going to use. Now, I know that with the 4 gigs this can take for Windows 8.1, there's also going to be updates, and the updates are going to probably take me to up to 20 gigs. I know that the 4 programs I'm going to use are about 500 megs in total, so it's not a lot. And even though I've got to prepare for updates, I know that Pizza doesn't do a lot of updates. They're very confident with the software they have, and when they do updates, it's very costly to them, so they don't like doing updates. So I know that I don't need to have really anything more than 30 gigs, but I'm still going to use 60. It's recommended, and again, I do have the space for it. If you remember, I'm going to be putting it on my secondary drive. I've got 237 gigs. I can afford it. It makes me more confident that just in case I need to put anything on there, I'm going to have the ability and the flexibility to do that. So 60 is fine with me. Now, I can make it dynamic in size, but I am going to click on allocate all disk space now. It's going to take it longer to load, but it does help with performance, and that's more of my concern. Again, I just want to know that when I load this, it's going to run smoothly, and if this means it's going to boost performance, that's fine, and I don't think I'm ever going to reach 60 gigs. So I'm very confident with this decision. If I was doing something that was more like graphic design where I could have multiple gigs at any point in time, I would probably suggest doing the dynamic size and not clicking on this, but just for this purpose in this scenario, this actually makes more sense to click on it. When it comes to store virtual disk image as a single file or split it up, you would think I would split it up because you think if I have to change computers, splitting up makes it easier to, as it says, to transfer this to another machine. But I'm going to use it as a single file. I'm going to store it as a single file just because it does boost performance. I have it on a hard drive that if I need to, I can move that hard drive over, and there shouldn't be any problem with keeping it as a single file. So I'm going to use this. Again, it's all about performance and just having a smooth experience, and I'm happy with that. This is where we're going to come up with where we're going to store this file. And again, I'm going to do it on the secondary drive. And we're going to go next. And it's just confirming all of the information that we had. So again, we've named it Pizza OS. It's on the D drive, workstation 10, Windows 8. It's the 64-bit, so we're happy with that. It's pre-allocated 60 gigs. We know that's fine based on what we're going to use. I really have nothing else that I'm going to be putting on this hard drive or this operating system. The only other program I need to use that isn't a Pizza piece of software is Notepad, which automatically comes with Windows operating system. So I'm fine with that. Memory, 2 gigs were fine. NAT, again, it will most likely be bridge, but just for the sake of this, I'm going to go forward with NAT. And everything else looks smooth. It looks like it's all good to go. And we're going to power on this virtual machine after creation. So I'm going to click finish. and it's going to start loading. It's going to take a long time, so what I'm going to do is come back once everything's been installed and loaded. So maybe I'll just fast forward all of this information, um, or all of this video part, so that you're not sitting here for half an hour waiting for this to load. So I will be right back, and thanks for waiting. Okay, so we're back. Um, Basically wanted to go through, just make sure that everything was working for myself before I come back here. So I'm gonna log in. As you can see, I did ask that it makes sure that I put in my password, doesn't log me in automatically, so that is working perfect. Gonna put in the password. It's gonna log me in. All right, perfect. We're here to go. And let's first of all make sure the network's working. Yep, looks like everything's good with that. I'll just go to Google. All right, good stuff. And what I can do really quickly too, I'm not going to wait for it to update, but I'm just going to show that we can technically update this, or at least search for updates. So go to System, Windows Update. Okay, and then check for updates. It's just going to check. And then lastly, I think the last thing that you need is for me to quickly check the SID. So I'll quickly do that. Go to Command, and we will type in WMIC user account get SID, and there you go. So that hopefully will be what you need from me. So this is my video tutorial. Thank you very much for watching it, and if you have any questions, please let me know. But I think I went through everything that you need, and I hopefully explained it well enough to get high marks. So once again, thank you, and I will see you in class tomorrow. Okay, have a great day. Bye.